It is my pleasure to welcome you to Sacred Heart University, the School of Communication, Media, and the Arts, and the 8th Annual SHU Media Exchange. Please join me in welcoming our moderator, Mr. Ron Ropiak, along with our first group of distinguished panelists.
Our questions today are deceptively simple, but still complex. How do you get your news? And how do you know that what you're reading and hearing and watching is actually accurate, it's unbiased, and it's real? Now we're going to welcome our first two guests. Belina D. Abreu is professor with the Department of Communication, Media, and the Arts at Sacred Heart University. And Jackie Clement is the CEO of the Fair Media Council on Long Island.
We have many more ways for getting information, and some of those places don't necessarily carry valid information. Journalism is about fact-finding. There is a process. You go to journalism school so you understand the process and what you're supposed to be communicating to the public. Somewhere along the line, we've made news infotainment.
The first thing to remember is you control the information that's coming at you. Today you have more control over that than ever. So I know a lot of times people feel powerless and just inundated and overwhelmed. You can turn it off at any time. You can decide when you take a break.
Gary Rose has been with us before. Gary is the professor and chair in the Department of Government, Politics, and Global Studies. Michaela Bennett is the senior analyst and director of news literacy partnerships at NewsGuard Technologies.
Looking back in time, sure, I would say that journalists were far more objective at one time, and I'm very disappointed in that. It comes down around to education. It really does. And we do have an electorate, unfortunately, that is relatively uninformed. You just have to encourage people to do more.
One of my perspectives is that I actually talk to a lot of these citizen journalists or people who have begun a news website. There are some who are better than others. There are some of them who are actually going to the effort to determine a responsible way of delivering that information to their readers. And then there are others that, as the professor said, they have no training. They have no idea what they're doing.
We have three more guests rounding out our program today. Matt Dorenzo is Vice President for News and Digital Content for Hearst Connecticut Media. Michaela Kane is the Senior Content Editor at the Hartford Courant. And Terry Sheridan is WSHU's News Director. What's news? How do you decide what goes into your paper and online?
What we do is we try to make the stories that, say, maybe based in one area, relatable to everyone. So we look at things like the environment. We look at things like the opioid crisis, and we'll cover that. Obviously, we cover the news of the day. We're covering the New Canaan mom story. But we just try to make it interesting to every one of our listeners.
The biggest thing we can do for trust is to admit our mistakes and have a really great corrections policy.
Does social media probably give a bigger outlet to fake news? Yes, but at the same time, I think social media is valuable in reaching news consumers and those who do care about facts and things like that. So can you have one without the other? I'm not so sure.
Thanks to everyone here for being with us today. I appreciate it.